Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. Recent events indicate that the government is changing their strategy in Kashmir and conveying the message that it means business. The events indicating this change in recent times include the army recommencing cordon and search operations, announcing aggressive counter-infiltration actions, including destruction of Pakistani posts to the press and permitting an interaction with Major Gogoi on the jeep tying incident, in addition to awarding his intuitive thinking. The last time when the army conveyed its strong intent was post the surgical strikes last year, when the Director General of Military Operations made a press statement on the issue. Politically, the government is being repeatedly questioned on its policies on handling the Kashmir agitation and countering an aggressive Pakistan. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze if the prevailing scenario in Kashmir, internal criticism and Pakistani behavior warrant this new strategy. Joining me on the program today are Air Vice Marshal retired Kapil, who is also a defense expert, Syed Zafar, national spokesperson of the BJP, Bharat Bhushan, editor, Catch News, and Iliyas Nazir, Lawy, advocate. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Marshal, I'd like to begin with you. Of course, several opposition parties have said that India is losing Kashmir. Is that what is happening with the present prevailing strategy?
I think there is no doubt whatsoever, and we've been saying it for months. Mr. Bharat Bhushan and I have been both members of a concerned citizens group, which visited in October, again visited in December. We have put reports in the public domain. They've gone to the government. Essence is that emotionally and psychologically, Kashmir is seceded from India. We need to take that into the calculus. That's the first point. The second point is you were talking about strategy. I don't think there's ever been a strategy on Kashmir. It's all transactional policies. An event takes place, security forces are brought in, and this has marked Kashmir policy for 30 years. The only exceptional change was from 2002 to 2004 May, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He had a clear-cut strategy to kind of unscramble the omelette of Kashmir and get your eggs back. As impossible a task. Moved forward on Pakistan, moved forward on Kashmir. I mean, the back channels almost produced a solution on Kashmir. And then I think the successor regime of Manmohan Singh also took it forward. Basically, we are addressing from the center the anger, the pain, the sense of betrayal of the center as they see it over decades, and then connecting the immediate from the recent, and then moving even further back, because layers upon layers of these political betrayals have marked Kashmir policy in India ever since Article 370 was introduced in the Constitution. So what we are seeing of the recent past, the point you referred to, I don't think surgical strikes achieved any purpose. This is my view. I say this because this is a blood feud on the border. So there is a reaction, there's a counter reaction. There's an action, there's a counter reaction.
Sure.
That's what's marking it. It's a question of, you've lost your tooth yesterday, I have lost my wisdom tooth the day before yesterday. And this firefight has been going on for a long time. Vajpayee was the first in November 2003, it stopped. Until 4 years or 5 years later, it remained in place. Sporadic changes took place on the firing on the boundary. But that's not such a big problem.
Right.
Pakistan also is usually, I mean, the Kashmir problem is basically created by Pakistan. Nothing is further from the truth. Of course, India, through central government, through its ineptitude in handling Kashmir issue creatively, sensitively, imaginatively and meaningfully to address the larger political question. This is a political problem.
Okay.
It is not a security force problem. Yes, Pakistan, the moment we show our ineptitude, like we did at Burhanwadi's time, they were as shocked as we were, including our intelligence agency. And look at how Kashmir, the whole valley, South Kashmir, rose as one.
Yes.
Rose as one, and you saw there were 2 lakh people, there were 40 namaz-e-janazas done for Burhan Wani over a period of 20 hours or so.
Sure.
What does it show? It shows the deep turmoil and anger in the valley, especially amongst the youth.
Fair
Now,
enough.
that is what we need to address by way of a strategy.
We'll get to the solutions later on in the program, but you're saying that there is no strategy at all. Bharat Bhushan, the government, to its defense, has time and again said that none of the strategies in the past have worked. Clearly, Kashmir today is the making of the decisions taken by the previous regimes, and we are trying to rectify all of that. Give us a chance. This is something new that we are trying, and it will work. The Home Minister has gone on record saying that in 1 year, Kashmir is going to change.
I don't believe him, nor do I believe that, excuse me, that Kashmir today is a result of entirely of what the previous governments are doing. This government is against Article 370. The previous governments were not. This government believes in use of force and use of force alone. The previous governments didn't believe only in the use of force. They had a more complex strategy. This government doesn't believe in any kind of dialogue with anybody. This government does not believe in its agenda of alliance, which the PDP and BJP signed before they came into power, which said they would have talks with everybody. I think this government just talks through his hat. When the Home Minister says that he's got a permanent solution for Kashmir, but will not discuss it in public, I think he's just lying. He has no solution at all. As Air Marshal Kark said, it's a political issue. Address it politically. Nobody is saying do not use the military or the security forces, but use a complex set of strategies. A politician should be talking about Kashmir, not General Rawat, who talks about people should fear the army. Why should Indian citizens fear the army? We should respect the army. Why does he say that innovative techniques such as tying a young man to the front of the jeep is all right? It gives us a bad name. So instead of winning hearts and minds of people, you will end up making people have contempt for the army, and you're ruining the image of India and the Indian army internationally. If that is a strategy, then I'm Albert Einstein. It's no strategy at all.
Okay, fair enough. Syed, Zafar, there is no strategy at all as far as Kashmir is concerned, is what both our panelists have said thus far. But tell me something, why is this new aggressive line being used in Kashmir?
See, both the panelists are entitled to have their reviews, and they have spoken about it. And I completely disagree with both of them that we do not have a strategy for Kashmir. We do have a strategy for Kashmir, and as the Honorable Home Minister has clearly stated, that we will find a permanent solution for Kashmir. Now, the apprehension these two gentlemen have, that the policy which we have adopted, policy what have been adopted by the previous regime is different. It may be different and it has to be different because we want a permanent solution. Why they never wanted to find a solution for Kashmir. And let me tell you very clearly that this issue of Kashmir is not created by us, our government. They were there for 70 years. Had they been really sincere about Kashmir issue, they would found the solution of Kashmir in last several years. They were ruling in the country. But the fact that they never wanted to find a solution, I must tell you that I have spoken to a couple of the senior leaders of Kashmiri opposition parties. They are not part of the current incumbent government there. They always feel that it is not the Congress. They could never find the solution. They will never find the solution because it works for their favor, and that's why they've always wanted this problem to persist. It is only they have faith in the Honorable Prime Minister that they will be able to find, he will be able to find a solution. It is the NDA government in the center which will be able to find the solution. And one of the panelists did mention that it is the last NDA government which actually had moved the needle. Otherwise, needle had never moved. And I must tell you that the Honorable Prime Minister from the day one started a dialogue with the people. He encouraged the youth. He always tried to engage everyone, and he always maintained that the welfare of Jammu and Kashmir is of paramount importance for the Honorable Prime Minister. Had it not been the fact, then we would have never joined hand with PDP, given that though both the parties have a different ideology. Still, we set aside those ideologies and still formed a government, only with the keeping in mind that we have to, our paramount importance is the welfare of people of Jammu and Kashmir, and that was the only driving point for us to form the government. Let me tell you, now he is saying that we do not want to engage people. We want to engage everyone, every single organization based in Kashmir want to be engaged by the central government, we are more than happy to engage them. If they are looking for a solution, they are willing to provide some solution. We are more than happy. But the only condition we have put in, that we do not want to engage any organization for any kind of dialogue if they do not believe in our constitution. So within the constitutional framework, if anybody wants to discuss with the central government, we are more than happy. The Honorable Home Minister went many times there,
Point taken.
sat for an open invitation to everyone that come and we discuss with us. But let me tell you, the people, as long as people will continue to support the separatist forces, those who act as an agent of Pakistan, and they are at least bothered about the people of Kashmir. In fact, the two panelists are more bothered about the people of Kashmir than those.
Okay, I'm going to take the point that you're making forward.
Separatist forces, because their only intention, only intention is to serve their own benefits and nothing else. They do not care about the average poor Kashmiris.
Right. Okay. So, Syed, Zafar, you made your point. Now, I'm going to take the point that you're making forward. Iliyas, Lawy, you know, the government had given an ultimatum to the youth. The Prime Minister also reached out to the youth of Kashmir saying, come to the mainstream, join us, do not pelt stones, and we will ensure that the youth of Kashmir grow along with the rest of the nation. Why hasn't that happened? I mean, why is there still a problem there in Kashmir?
You know, I'll tell you that I'll completely agree with Air Marshal Kak. What he has said, that Kashmir issue, we only remember this as and when the problem arises. And as and when the problem gets suppressed anyways, so we forget it. It all began in 2016 after Bhushan Wani killing and all. So after that, the Prime Minister, the statements by Home Minister used to come as usual, like the way these statements are coming now. But nothing has happened on the ground. We remember only once the turmoil begins in the state. A long needed initiative is to be started over there. Like what the previous governments have done, starting from Atal Bihari Vajpayee, continued by Manmohan Singh ji, they both have initiated the process with separatists. They were doing something anti-national. The unfortunate part of the matter is that this government, this democracy, the popular democracy that we are proud of, is turning unfortunately into a populist democracy. The government is for Gav Rakshaks, the government is against Kashmiris. That's the sentiment that is breeding there in Kashmir. That's the sentiment that's breeding there in the hearts of youth of Kashmir.
Okay, fair enough. So, that's the sentiment that, you know, the government is anti-youth of Kashmir is what Iliyas Lawy is saying. Air Marshal, how do we change that sentiment? Clearly, has this strategy, or is this the way forward? Can we push our agenda through with force?
No, that force is no option at all. I mean, I agree with Bharat, you know, the question is a political problem, so address it politically. But I think we need to look at it, it's a kind of a four-pointer circular problem. One is India wants to integrate Jammu and Kashmir as a normal state of the Indian Union. That has been the effort all along. National security, you know, it's a work in progress in terms of nation building. On the other hand, the Kashmiris say that you have given us an exceptional status under Article 370, and it didn't happen as a one-off discussion. 2 years of negotiations took place between the Jammu and Kashmir leader Sheikh Abdullah and the central government as to what will be the terms. This is the second pointer. The third is the Kashmiris' demand now in the recent years that you have let us down on all those issues, and the voice of the youth is the primary form of protest. It was the gun in the 90s. From 2008, it is the stone. The conversation, the dialogue is between the stone and the pellet gun. There is no political dialogue. I mean, what are we talking about, the PDP and the BJP joining together? Please go ahead and read that agenda of alliance. Not 1 inch forward movement has taken place on that agenda of alliance. So what are we talking about? That's the basic foundational document. On the contrary, it is not Jammu and Kashmir. Today, I see it is Jammu versus Kashmir. And this when both regions are in coalition. I mean, this government has had 3 years. I think 3 years is adequate time enough for a dynamic Prime Minister. He's a dynamic prime minister in every sense of the word. This is where he should have moved. He, on 22nd of August last year, when the all-party delegation from Kashmir came to him, he said, yes, I will start a dialogue. I mean, this is last year, August. We are almost in August. So I don't think, I tend to agree that it is a question of let things lie as they are. We will use force, and General is common board in terms of the statements he has made. The difficulty is the longer you delay the political process, especially amongst the youth, the anger, the angst will increase, the alienation will enhance hugely, and we have a problem also of radicalization. It is the youth who are getting radicalized. The more you delay them in their process of engagement, more radicalized they will get. And this is an ideal situation for Pakistan to fish in troubled waters. Then you take out Pakistan as the primary cause of the problem, where the problem lays elsewhere. I want to mention also.
Before you can complete your
Yes.
point, I think Bharat Bhushan wants to add something, and then you can go ahead and
I
complete your
merely
point
want
you're
to say
making.
that Kashmir should not be seen as a partisan problem. The BJP spokesperson tried to say Congress did this, and so for 70 years this happened or that happened. It's a problem which is non-partisan. It concerns the Indian state. And if there's been betrayal in Kashmir, it is betrayal by the Indian state. And if you say you want a solution within the Constitution of India, who is it who's subverting that constitutional framework? It's the BJP, which wants to abrogate Article 370. Article 370 is part of the Constitution. Now, having said this, what I want to say is I support Air Marshal Kak. See, what has happened today is that Kashmir has become a pressure cooker. There are no safety valves. What are safety valves in a democracy? Safety valves are elections, dialogue, peaceful protests. Okay, you held an election which was very unnatural, so you have an unnatural alliance on top, and people thought, well, this unnatural alliance will probably lead to some solution. So you've forgotten about the agenda of alliance, as Air Marshal has pointed out. Peaceful protests, much before stone pelting, peaceful protests were banned. You were beating up people like Yasin Malik for peaceful protests. So you don't want people to protest peacefully. You don't want dialogue with anybody. Forget talking to Syed Ali Shah Gilani. He might probably talk to you only about Sharia and implementation of Islamic laws or whatever. Talk to protesters. Create a new leadership and have better intelligence inputs. How is it that you have no intelligence input at all? I mean, you have such fantastic intelligence agencies. How come they have no human intelligence of what's happening in various mohallas of Srinagar? That you're completely taken by surprise. You need to improve your information gathering better, and you need to follow a humane approach to Kashmiri people. After all, you claim that they are Indians, so they are Indian citizens. Is this how you will treat Indian citizens? Is this how you treat Indian citizens in the rest of India? No. So I'm saying this whole approach is completely wrong. So I'm upset with the BJP spokesperson. I have great respect for that party. I may disagree with their agenda, but I'm saying don't make it partisan. Don't make it a blame game. Don't say we have a brilliant strategy. If you had a brilliant strategy, so many people would not have got blinded. So many people would not have died. Kashmir would be peaceful. You would not have to tie anybody in front of a jeep.
Sure, let
you
him
would not
respond.
have to. You would not have to have your army chief talk about issues which are political in nature. The Prime Minister of India should be talking. The Home Minister should be talking there.
Yes, Syed Zafar, go ahead. Respond to what's being said.
No, it's really irony that the man was tied up with the jeep as actually in what circumstances he doesn't want to even talk about the circumstances. How many lives has been saved because of this out of box thinking by the army officer at that point in time. You must appreciate those things instead of just only hell bent in criticizing the central government. And let me tell you, our approach is whether it's the best approach, best policy or not policy, but we will be the one who will be able to find the solution for Kashmir, because our intent is sincere, our approach is sincere, and we really feel that the Kashmiri youth and Kashmiris have been left out with all the developmental activities taking place elsewhere in the country. But because of the ongoing problem and the problem which is lasting for the last several decades, and thanks to the Congress government, I am repeating it again, because they never wanted a solution. And today everybody is looking at us. We are there for last 3 years, and our attempt, if you see, from the very first day, our attempt was to create a very congenial environment in Jammu and Kashmir. The Honorable Prime Minister
Syed Zafar, I'm sorry to
even
cut you
announced a
short.
package for
I'm sorry to cut you
84,000
short, but I have a
crores
question for you. I have a question for you. You know, you're talking about a congenial atmosphere. Is that congenial atmosphere going to be created by using brute force? Why don't you start a dialogue process or restart a dialogue process, as is being pointed out by the other speakers?
See, who is not encouraging those protesters? Who is not encouraging those people who have actually grievances with the central government to come and discuss with us, engage? As long as they want to discuss within the constitutional framework, we are more than happy to discuss. But if you, instead of discussing with us, they always are on the street at the behest of the separatist forces, at the behest of the Pakistan, to pelt stones on Indian forces. And if you see that how much restraint Indian forces have, you only see the victims, but you don't see the victims, how many army personnel have been also the victim of this stone pelting. So you have to see that who is interested in what. We are interested that, and even our honorable party president have made the statement yesterday that we want to engage everyone, but they should stop stone pelting.
Okay.
Once they stop stone pelting, the only thing which we want that to engage them and have a dialogue with them.
Okay, sure, fair enough. Iliyas, Lawy, the government has no other option, the army has no other option, is what the BJP spokesperson is suggesting. When you're being pelted with stones, when force is being used, what else does the army do? The army cannot just sit back and wait and, you know, be sitting ducks in a situation like that. So it has to retaliate. So there should be, you know, a two-way process in Kashmir. Only then will things, you know, turn for the better.
You know, I would like to point here that the main issue is that the separatists don't want to talk within the framework of the constitution, and it's not the matter of today. It has been since the Kashmir problem is there. So one thing is that, as long as the BJP remains, or the present government remains adamant, or it's conditional dialogue, so the matter will not be solved at all. So the basic problem is that they don't want to come for a dialogue under the Constitution of India. That's the main problem that they are having. So we'll have to talk. Ours is a democracy of ours is accommodative democracy. We'll have to listen to the dissenting voices as well. Second thing is that such instances are being, like such activities are being carried out by the present government, like the honoring of Major GOI. We are trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. It's army major, like no doubt we can encourage our army by other means as well. But you know, the sensitivity of the Kashmir, looking to the sensitivity of the Kashmir and then honoring an army major in that way, which genuinely I feel that brings disrepute our army, that must not have been done. So such things are there which alienate the youth of Kashmir. Such things must be stopped, and a political peace process, unconditional political peace process must be initiated as soon as possible.
You know, Air Marshal, a lot has been spoken about Major Gogoi's action in Jammu and Kashmir. You know, he's been congratulated, rewarded for his intuitive thinking. You know, there are many reports that suggest that he has saved several lives by his smart on-the-spot thinking. What is your thought on that?
Well, I have worn a armed forces uniform for 40 years, so it's a very difficult question for me. But I have agonized over analyzing this issue. May I suggest that the Indian Army has faced far, far bigger challenges in the same state of Jammu and Kashmir over 30 years than the kind of challenge that is being talked about. My own view is, and I share with former army commanders of the Indian Army, including Northern Army Commander General Panag, I share his views entirely. The Indian Army will have to, it'll get haunted by this inhuman act of putting a human being in a jeep like a cattle. Even cattle will sort of demur. And then the two journalists, and these are journalists who are mainstream media, they're not local journalists. In a national daily, they recreated the 7-hour journey, talked to hundreds of villagers. Firstly, he was not a stone pelter, that's been established. Secondly, he was tied to the jeep and driven through 17 villages. There are other ways you could have, if you had to take those people out. So I think I reserve my judgment on that. It's not done the Indian Army proud.
Right.
I agree with my speaker. But I want to come in on 2, 3
Very
quick
quickly
points.
because I'm running out of time. Yes.
The first point is Vajpayee, when he was asked at the Srinagar airport, when he came back after 2003, that grand initiative, are the talks going to be held in the constitutional mode? Took a deep pause. He said, Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat or Kashmiri daire. Now that is saying it. Why do you have to lay conditions? As I agree with Lawy Saab, that make it unconditional. I'm sure even the Hurriyat will take that path.
Right.
But you have to do this imaginatively. Secondly, I want to say that South Kashmir is now in turmoil.
Okay.
You see both sides of the spectrum, the security forces as also the furious stone pelters, dehumanized, waves upon waves coming on army. 2016 we had Burhan Wani, there was no army there in South Kashmir. They were in the barracks.
Right.
Why is the army facing stone pelters? Police, CRPF, leave the army. Don't let the army
I've got
come
1 minute left on the program, so I'd like to get Bharat Bhushan's and...
But media, I want to make one 5-second thing.
Yeah.
It is a couple of channels in the media which are fanning the greatest hatred against India in Kashmir.
Okay.
What do? Every incident is exploited for ultranational and hyper-patriotic purposes to create a rage in the rest of India.
Sure.
Very damaging to the
Bharat
Kashmir
Bhushan, your
cause.
closing comments on the program, very
Well,
quickly.
I don't know whether these are closing comments, but I would say that when the BJP takes credit for Vajpayee's NDA, I only want to say that today's NDA is not even a pale shadow of Vajpayee's NDA. What is happening today is got nothing to do with Vajpayee's vision. So, you know, they can keep on waving Vajpayee as a flag. It means nothing. Secondly, what I want to say is that this whole business of we will talk, within the constitutional framework, etc. Of course, you should talk within the constitution.
Sure.
It's a flexible document. Constitution is there are a set of laws that we've given to ourselves. We'll change those laws if necessary, and if they need to be changed for the Kashmiris, we'll change them. And it's not as if unconditional talks have not been held in the past.
Right.
The Naga talks were unconditional, and you've had 19 years of ceasefire and working towards a solution which will be within the Constitution of India. You did not begin with the Constitution, but you'll end with the Constitution. Similar thing can be done for Kashmir also.
Syed, Zafar, close the show for us in 30 seconds, please.
Well, I heard Air Marshal Kak and I heard the other speaker as well. All I can say that some of the impression they have is away from reality. In fact, the army and the military officers, those who are the forces, those who are there, are trying their best to restrain, and they have demonstrated, they have exhibited that despite being stone pelted, they have actually never fired. So you have to also appreciate army. You have to also
Right.
boost their morale. You have to also give them credit for what they are doing. And also, I must tell you that once the stone pelters will decide to engage the central government or the state government for dialogue, we are more than happy to get engaged. But the only problem is the bottleneck is the separatist force, because they do not want. It doesn't.
I'll have to cut you short there, Syed Zafar,
purpose.
because I'm completely out of time on the program today. I'd like to thank all my guests, Air Vice Marshal Kapil Kak, Syed Zafar, Bharat Bhushan, Iliyas, Nazir, Lawy. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on the program. That's all the time we have. See you again next time.